Hey everybody. Welcome back to the ReVitalized podcast.
We're super excited to have you all here. Super excited.
This is a really, really good one. This one is just freaking packed.
Oh, it's with much
info,
knowledge.
with wisdom, with
tips,
nuggets. There's a lot.
It's amazing. You don't want to miss it.
You do not. If you guys care about getting into real estate one day and you want to make sure that you can properly prepare ahead of time and plan for it and get it done right, and then once you have it, like keep it and stick with it and stuff, Ray, he is a wealth of knowledge in the real estate game. This man has made millions of dollars with real estate, buying and selling and managing and all these things. He's been doing it for longer than we've both been alive, So take advice from the master because he lays out a pretty clear, concise plan. If you take notes and you follow what he says and you get stuff right, work on your credit, get your financing in order, all that sort of stuff, you will be way better prepared to get into the real estate game than most people, especially if you're a young person like us. And then just a lot of really great experience and wisdom from his business life, about your mindset and making sure that your lifestyle is structured in a way that's going to support your business goals and your income and all that stuff.
Choosing the right team, all those amazing values he's going to share with all of us here in this episode. And so, like we said, you don't want to miss it.
Yeah, that's it. I know, I know we learned a lot. You guys will too. So take notes, pay attention, and enjoy because this one was a lot of fun, and we know you're going to love it. All right? Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Have an amazing day, and please let us know what your thoughts were down below, and if you have any questions or anything else, maybe we can bring Ray in for a second round pick sometime soon. That'd be good. Yeah. All right, guys. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Listen, the secret to success and the secret to failure is understanding that there's little things that compound. So if you have a bad habit, but you compound it daily, you're guaranteed to fail.
Yeah.
See, here's a little thing. Always build your business first. Build your source of income first, and your personal life and house and all the things you want will follow. My first year in selling homes, and that year I did 50 transactions, 50. Look, I want to build a house. We got it organized. I found a lot. I didn't have any money. I bored everything. I started with nothing. I guarantee you that if you just be consistent with what you do, you can't help but get better. You cannot do something over and over and over again and not get better at it. Being fit is, I'm basically applying the same principles I've used in sales. It's the same thing. If you're successful financially and you can't enjoy it because you're in a wheelchair, how's that any?
Yeah, true.
Totally.
How's it going?
It's going great, my friend. How about you?
Fantastic.
It's Justin, really, you doing really good? Beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day.
You kidding me? We get to sit down with
it's probably going to be one of our better days today as well. Yesterday was 33 degrees here in the lower mainland.
Wow.
And we'll probably hit that today again too.
Yeah, no kidding. For us right now, it is 28 degrees right now.
Yeah.
It's super hot, but it's way more humid over here than it is where you're at. It's crazy humid.
We don't have much humidity at all here.
Yeah, so that's nice. That helps for sure. Cool. So, guys, I'm excited about this one. You guys are going to hear some amazing bombs from this guy, Mr. Yenkana. He is a wealth of knowledge, wealth of experience, and he's just gonna lay it all out for us. So Ray, just for everybody that doesn't know you, why don't you just start giving us some of your backstory? Just tell us who you are. Who is Ray Yenkana? Why should somebody listen to you? What have you done? What have you accomplished? How do you have such amazing hair? What's the situation? What's going on?
I actually used to have amazing hair, Justin.
Well, I believe it's still there.
I used to have amazing hair, but it's slowly but surely deteriorated. It fell off. But I started a long time ago on an island called Aruba.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was born in Aruba. My parents were working there, and there was a big oil refinery, big Esso oil refinery there. It still is, I think. But at a young age, I don't know, probably about 2 years old, less than 2 years old, I moved back. My parents moved me back to where they grew up in a country called Guyana in South America. And they had an older daughter. I had an older sister. She had leukemia, so basically she was going to pass away. So they went back home to be with the family, and then I guess they thought they were going to come back to their jobs. I think what they were thinking, and then they decided, dealing with the grief of their child being gone, I think they decided to stay home with their family, where they grew up. And then, so I ended up going to school there until I was about 11 years old. And one day my mom says to me, almost before my 12th birthday, she said, we're going on a trip. We're going to get a boat. We're going to go on a trip. We're going to go to England, and I'm going to get you in school so you can learn to speak good English, boy.
Wow.
So I actually had my 12th birthday living in London, England. And so I went to school there for a couple of years. And then I think my parents had a plan to come to North America. And they probably didn't have all their ducks in a row. So I came home at Christmas time 2 years later. And then the plan didn't work out, so I ended up going to school. So I did high school, started in England, then I did a little over a year in Guyana, and then we moved and we ended up coming to Canada. So we landed in Montreal. I finished high school in Montreal. So when I went to high school, the first day in this new high school, I walked in the cafeteria, I looked to the right, and I saw this girl, and I had a little voice in my head say, that's the girl you're going to marry. And lo and behold, that's the girl that's up here in the kitchen doing some stuff, and we got married young, and now we're going to have our 50th anniversary in July.
Wow. Congratulations. That's amazing.
That's so cool. Freaking cool.
So 50 years, and then we, along the way we had 3 kids, and then one of those kids had 2 kids. So now we got 2 nice grandkids. One's
nice.
19 and one's 17. And so now we over the years, we moved from Quebec. We lived in Montreal for a while, but then we moved from Quebec to British Columbia. We lived in northern British Columbia in a town called Fort St. John. And when I first moved out, I worked in a sawmill, but then I quickly transitioned into sales. When you're in your early 20s, you're not sure what are my gifts, what am I good at?
Right.
And I discovered my gifts when I worked in a lumberyard, and I could sell.
That's cool.
So I could communicate. So I learned that I had these gifts.
Probably from all the formal education in England.
And so I said to the lumberyard people after a few years of me being there, I said, why don't you put me on a commission? I don't want to earn a salary. I want to be commission based.
Right.
And I just need a small percentage of everything I sell. Well, it was beyond their scope, but they had never had anybody ask them that. I'm the first person to ask them that. So, but that's me asking. A lot of times you ask questions or you're thinking about something, and it's kind of like a discovery for yourself.
Right.
Like I didn't have that question burning in me all of a sudden. It's just one day I blurted out. What am I doing working by the hour? I should be on a commission here.
Right.
On a fee, percentage. So that's when that led me to think about, I can't be working for a fixed amount of money every hour like most people. I got to do something else. And so I basically left the lumberyard and I started building houses. I built one house first. I hired a guy to help me build a house. I learned how to build houses, started building houses. And I never turned back. So I just kept building houses, commercial buildings, until one day in about 1985, 37 years ago, one of my clients said to me, he says, Ray, I own a real estate company that does property management. Would you come and run that company for me? So
wow.
I said, sure. So I jumped over, got my property manager's license, which back in the day was easy to do. You just filled in the form, sent them a check, and they send you a license.
Right.
Nice.
I did that for about 2 years, and during that time, the broker in the office said, Ray, you can't sell stuff without a real estate license. That's a different license.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he goes, I know you're selling stuff to people. And I was. So I got my real estate license, and then I sold a company. I sold a company one day that I worked for. And the people who bought the company, was a blessing. They said, Ray, we don't need you anymore.
Cool.
So that was the ticket to go. I went and built a school and a church that winter, took my real estate course, and I got my license the next year, and I started selling real estate part-time the first year because I was still busy building. But in 1989, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go full tilt selling real estate. I'll figure it out. I had nobody to teach me. So 89 was my first year in actual selling homes, and that year I did 50 transactions, 50, and I said to myself, you know what? I'm just learning how to do this. I'm going to try and figure this out, and this will be my worst year.
Well, so yeah, I mean, that's I don't know much about real estate, but your first year,
doing
50 houses sold,
so for the next,
that's quite a bit.
I don't know, 13 or 14 years, from 89 to 2002, I guess that's 13 years, I basically never had a bad year where I did 50 deals. It was always over, my average during that time was 100 transactions a year. So I got something in my head to move out of that small marketplace in about 1997. I began thinking about it, and by 1999, I got a call from the guy that owns the office that I'm at now, Remax Little Oak. And I basically came and I bought that office with a partner in January of 2000. And so my first goal was to transition from living in the north to coming here, but I thought I better build the office first. You should always here's a little thing. Always build your business first. Build your source of income first, and your personal life and house and all the things you want will follow. Right. So I knew that principle. So I commuted. So, to build your business first, you're going to end up outside your comfort zone.
Totally.
So for 2 years,
otherwise it's going to be a terrible business.
I came to the Lower Mainland every week for 2 years. Every month for a week. So for 2 years, every month for 1 week, I came to the Lower Mainland, talked to agents, built the office up, and all of a sudden, 2 years later, we had 50 agents, which was my goal to do it in 3 years. We did it in 14 months.
Wow.
Actually, in 14 months. So 14 months later, I'm planning to move. We bought a home here in 2001. We moved into it, took possession in fall of 2001, and we've been in this house ever since. And then in the spring or in the winter of 2002, I moved. So I've actually lived in the Lower Mainland since February of 2002. And during that time now, I worked in the brokerage. I kind of put my sales business not on hold, but I slowed it down because I'm always going to sell. Always going to sell real estate. Because not everybody that gets a real estate license, it's like any licensed business, real estate, insurance, mortgage brokering, any of these things, or any business for that matter. It could be any network marketing business. Not everybody that signs the paper and joins the company is going to build a business. And the reason is because a lot of times people just don't have the skills. They haven't got the belief in themselves. They haven't got the ability to endure the pain. There's so many things that can stop you. Because it's easier to quit than it is to persevere. So whatever it is in life you want to do, it's always easier to quit. Quitting doesn't take a lot.
No.
And that's why quitters don't have a
That's
lot.
what it is.
Exactly. It doesn't take much to be a quitter.
No, it doesn't.
You don't have to study hard.
No.
You don't need a formal education. Don't need a degree.
You don't need a formal education to be a quitter. And I know because I'm a quitter myself. I started college and I was thinking, my mom wanted me to go to college, get a degree, and to become some kind of professional something. And she'd have been happy with any professional. She'd have been happy if I was a doctor or a lawyer or who knows what. She'd have been happy. But a year and a half into it, I quit. I'm a quitter. But then once I got into business, I realized I was wired more for business and sales. Yeah. And so that's I try to help people that don't want to quit, is what I've been doing for most of my last 20 some years. I help people who want to succeed. And I kind of work with them and try to help them not stumble on some of the things that stumble most people.
Right.
And I basically help them discover their potential. Sometimes it's hard for people to, discover their potential because they're not necessarily filled with belief. One of the things I always tell people, my mom gave me a tremendous gift. The gift she gave me was, I don't know how many times, it used to come off her tongue all the time. She used to say, Ray, if it's within the realm of human possibility, you can do it.
That's
so
cool.
I never doubted myself. I never doubted because my mom kind of put it into me. If humans can do it, I think you look human. You could, I could pass for human. You know what I'm saying?
exactly.
You know, but a little bit of makeup or something, I could probably pass for human most of the time.
I would think, like 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 times. Or maybe the odd chance where someone's like,
more times than not, people will think I'm human, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm working with Ron and he makes me do some of the things I do, I'm sure there would be people who go, that can't be human for it, because he's 70 years old. He shouldn't be able to do that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No kidding. And like in the gym, you're an
Ron, you know, he makes you. A real coach helps you to not only discover what you're capable or your potential, but a real coach helps you to believe that you can do what you can't necessarily believe yourself at the moment. So you kind of go on the wings of the coach until you actually develop the wings yourself.
Totally.
So, because I've been coached myself for many, many years, I have a business coach, now I have a health coach. I mean, I've had a speaker coach, I've had a coaching coach, I've had, different coaches that I've worked with over the years. Now I also coach people to help them succeed. So, make a long story short, that kind of fast forwards how I got to where I'm at. About 9 years ago, I took a lot of training and became a certified trainer, coach, speaker. And along the way, part of what we learned there too was I studied DISC. I do DISC analysis. And if you're working with people, you should understand that not everybody has the same personality. So it's best to try and tailor what you're doing, or if you're speaking or trying to communicate to either one-on-one or to a group. It's nice to have an idea of the mix of the group, because different personalities will take things differently, right? So to sell to different personality groups, you should have like a good, it's helpful. Yeah. It's helpful to be disc-oriented.
Exactly. Adaptable.
Totally. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to be.
So there's the backstory.
Cool. Well, that's okay. So how
I try to give it as briefly as I can.
I appreciate it. Like you're a great speaker. So you just ramble on. You're good. So like, how did you get into the whole building thing? Because the building was what transitioned you into real estate. But you're a young 20-year-old kid. You didn't wake up one morning and start building a house.
I started building when I was 26. So between the ages of 23 to 26, I worked in a lumberyard. Mm-hmm. And so this is funny. In the lumberyard, and for some years I kind of ran the lumber department, and I sold everything. But I did every job in the lumberyard, including deliver the lumber, deliver building materials, sell building materials. But one of the funny things when you're working in a lumberyard is people will come in and ask you how to do things.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to somehow or other figure out how to do things to tell the customers. And so basically I'm telling people how to do things that I've never done. But what I would do whenever I delivered lumber to a job was I watched everything the carpenters were doing, and I asked them a lot of questions, and I picked their brains, and I got to be friends with these carpenters. And so one day I said to one of them, look, I want to build a house. So we got it organized. I found a lot, and I didn't have any money. I bored everything.
Right.
And I started with nothing. But the carpenter I worked with, him and I worked on the job together, building that house, and I picked his brain. He's a great guy.
Cool.
His name is Hugh. Hugh Feather's his name. I think he still builds houses up in Kamloops. Great guy.
Cool.
Hugh. I learned from Hugh, and then quickly I decided I can do it. So I started doing it. And then Hugh and I we never worked together. We worked not together, but we worked, in the same neighborhood building houses. And he was always a great resource. And he was a journeyman. He'd studied carpentry. And once I started building houses, then I became a journeyman because the apprenticeship board let me apprentice people under me. And
cool.
That's how I got started in building. I just basically, I'm like old school. I did it and then got the certification afterwards.
That's hilarious.
Nice.
That's awesome. That's super cool. Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
But I love the fact that we have trade schools in Canada, and everybody is not born to be an academic.
Yeah.
Totally.
So in our family, we have two young people, that is grandkids, and one's academic and one isn't. But it doesn't mean one's smart and one's not so smart. That is not what it means. It just means we have different inclinations. My grandson is not academic, he's one of the smartest kids you're ever going to meet.
Right.
I mean, creative. He can figure things out. He can build anything.
That's cool.
He can repair anything. He amazes me. We've never actually had anybody in our family that could weld and mechanic, and so of course he's going to trade school, and his first ticket will be welding.
Nice.
But who knows? His second ticket could be automotive, or it could be fabricating.
Right.
He's definitely gifted. He's totally gifted. My granddaughter, she's academic and sports oriented, so she's actually. You watch for her this summer. She will be playing for the BC rugby team, who will give all the rugby teams in Canada a run for their money, if not kick their butts.
That's awesome.
And she'll be in Niagara Falls for the Canada Summer Games.
Cool.
She'll be on the BC team, and her name is Lucy Romeo. And
Lucy Romeo.
You'll hear her name.
Shout out Lucy Romeo. You're gonna go crush some rugby players. That's
Definitely.
awesome.
You'll hear her name, because she's also, at a young age, she has been identified as one of the top players in the country. So they have her training with Team Canada.
That's so cool.
That's really cool.
Awesome.
I mean, like, it's just like you said, how like there's different personalities. Like there's different people who are gifted in different areas, who are smart in different ways. And if we were all smart in the same kind of way, we're all gifted in the same kind of way, we would fail as a society.
Totally. Nobody would do it. Like, and there's so many. There's a what's the word I'm looking for? There's such a lack of people that can do those trade skills right now, just because formal education has been so heavily pushed. There's a huge demand for all those types of trade work, especially like in Canada and the States.
I think the kids who get into trades have got a huge future ahead of them, and the reason is because in Canada today we have a shortage. I don't even know of a trade where there isn't a shortage, but there's a shortage in our area of plumbers, electricians, carpenters, pipe fitter, everything. Totally. I mean, both my boys are tradespeople. I have two sons; they're both pipe fitters. But many jobs they go to, the company that's hiring them has trouble filling all the positions with the various tradespeople that have to put the project together.
Right. Well, because things like a trade, you can't just put anybody in there. Like they have to spend that time getting trained up. You know, it's not like an you can't really intern and do paperwork and then become a paralegal or anything. You have to have the skill, otherwise you can't do the job.
Well, the thing about tradespeople, they've been the education system in Canada has kind of downplayed tradespeople and trade schools. They've kind of downplayed it, and over the years, it's been like all the accolades seem to go to people that are going to go and do a formal education and get some kind of a degree as a teacher. There's more unemployed teachers and there's more unemployed, highly educated people at any point in time than there always has been.
Right.
Because they might go to university and get a degree, but they can't do it. They can't do it. Even engineers, they can't. They can't. They have no practical side to them, and a lot of times they struggle. Matter of fact, people are shocked to know. People think lawyers make a lot of money. Just picking on a profession, people think lawyers make a lot of money. If you knew the stats and you knew the facts, the average lawyer doesn't make that much.
Yeah.
The average lawyer doesn't make that much, and the reason is because there's so many of them, that the top ones get the business and do most of the business, and the bottom ones hardly do anything, and the middle of the road ones work for the top ones.
Right. You were saying the same similar thing to the real estate market.
I was going
to
ask.
That's the same thing in real estate. That's the same thing in mortgage. If you're a mortgage broker, I would say just about anything you get into, you'll find that there's top, bottom, middle.
Totally.
And it's the old rule. There's an Italian philosopher, I guess, years ago, that came up with something. His name was Pareto. He came up with something called the Pareto principle, which is 80% of what anybody needs is done by 20% of their effort. It's the 80-20 rule.
I like that.
20% of what you do will accomplish 80% of your results.
Right.
So the sooner you learn to figure and focus what is the most important 20% of what I should do, it's gonna escalate your life and your business, because try to delegate off all the things that aren't part of your 20% to somebody else.
Right. Totally.
And that's why we create the idea that not everybody can do everything. Don't be a jack of all trades. Figure out what you're good at. Do that and hire people to do everything else.
Totally. Yeah, like we hire a guy to do the podcast.
Yeah.
You know?
If you hire some of these people to do the things you don't want to do, you know you should do it. But you hire people to do it. Likely, if you're looking hard, you will find people who do these things, and they're the best in their field. So now you're getting the best possible service in every one of the areas of your life.
Exactly.
But you aren't necessarily doing everything.
Yep. You're not limited by your own issues or lack of skill in a certain area.
It's really cool, like, because when you do really focus in on that, it's like a community, like, well, it is a community, but it's a community of people like all together, all aligned for like one purpose, for like, you know, pushing forward your real estate business or your construction business or et cetera. And like, we just, as a people in general, we just work better when we work together. If we can figure that out, we can accomplish so much. We can put someone on the moon. We can do so many things if we just learn how to work together properly. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, one of the most successful things in our business is real estate teams. Matter of fact, real estate teams now account for close to one. Sorry, the amount of people that are on real estate teams are over a third of the people that are in the business in real estate.
Is that like just the
So
market in general, or just your
licenses
brokerage?
work on teams, and the teams accomplish so much. It's crazy, more than an individual ever could.
Totally.
Makes sense.
And so like define a real estate team for anybody listening.
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of powerful teams in the country, and I mean, we have teams. We have powerful teams in our office. But we have powerful teams in the country, and there's a team in Calgary. Excuse me, I'm good friends with the guy who runs the team. His name is Justin.
Nice, cool.
His name is Justin Havry. I mean, that guy. I mean, I've watched him grow his team from a handful to he's like the size of an office. I'm thinking his team members must be like 50, 60, 70 people strong, and their productivity is bigger than real estate offices with 2 or 3 times the number of people in it. Just his team. Wow. But you have teams in right where you are in Ottawa. Like, I'm good friends with a guy who has a team in Ottawa. His name is Jeff McGowan. I'm not sure if he calls his team by his name, but him and his wife, they run a team in Ottawa. And basically, I would say what they accomplish as a team, they'd be hard pressed. I know a couple of teams in Ottawa, but there's another team, the Hammerys. Steve Hammery's got a team there in Ottawa. Powerful. These are powerful. Like what you said, the team effort makes everything go better, faster, exponential.
Totally, it has like a multiplication effect on everybody's efforts.
Right.
What do you think is the most challenging part to like recruiting new team members and stuff? Because I know that like getting on new talent can be pretty complicated because maybe there aren't enough of it. There aren't enough people with common sense these days, or lack of, all of that. What would you say has been, at least for you personally?
So the biggest challenging part of recruiting, so to speak, or I could say the same in sales, but the challenge is to be consistent. That's the challenge. See, people are always worried, well, was that the best presentation? Was that the best video that I could ever do? Could I have improved on that? Instead of worrying about was what I did the best and could I improve, I guarantee you that if you just be consistent with what you do, you can't help but get better. You cannot do something over and over and over again and not get better at it. So I like to tell people, don't focus on getting better right away. Focus on being consistent. Just do it.
Just do
it. Just like Nike, just do it.
Just do it. Just do it. Do it and do it and do it and do it. And one day you'll all of a sudden realize there's very few people that can do it as good as I can do it. And people will think you were born this way. They would think you were, like I have agents in my office today, and they've been with us for 17, 18 or longer years. And I was telling one of them the other day, I've got a good friend, he's a team leader here, very powerful business. His name is Ben. I said, Ben, do you realize in the community next door to us, like in Surrey or Langley, people, the new agents that come into the business, they talk about you. And he's laughing. He's like, well, what are they? Well, they're like, they can't believe all the stuff you do. And of course, they all think you were born this way. Nobody is born good. Nobody. Even Ben Hardy. Ben's a great guy, but he wasn't born good. He was born the same as everybody's born one. They put their pants on one leg at a time, and they have trouble at first getting their thoughts together and communicating properly. Or the biggest single problem people have is believing in themselves. And because when you're building anything, any organization, any team, anything that you're building, why are you building it? Because you don't have it.
Right.
So you're working a way to build it so that you have it. So the key thing is you have to have a picture where you're going. And the picture of where you're going is kind of the same picture the farmer has. In the spring, when the farmer puts the seeds in the ground, he has a picture. What farmer enjoys putting seeds in the ground and turning the dirt over? What pleasure is in that?
Right.
The pleasure is in his head, because as he's putting it in the ground, he knows that the law of averages says that if I put enough seed in the ground, and if I apply the fertilizer, and if I till the soil properly before I put the seed in the ground, and if I water the crop, and in the summertime I start fighting the bugs and I kill all those things off, the fall is going to come where the crop will be up. Now that's not the time you go on holidays.
Yeah.
Right.
You plan your holidays any other time but when the crop's up.
Exactly.
So now the crop is up. This guy can harvest, and that's what he saw when he did all the hard work in the season. So your life, your business, it's not exactly in 1 year. It could take several years. But when you're putting the seed in the ground and you're working hard, you've got this vision of where you're going, and you've got to be consistent with the effort. And basically, you have to work at what you're working at without having any evidence that it's going to work.
You got to have faith.
Gotta have faith.
Need it.
Yeah. Trust the process.
There's a definition of faith, and there's many definitions of faith. One of the definitions of faith that I like is believing that what you are working towards will become seen. Faith is the evidence of things not seen. We only believe it, but we haven't seen it yet.
Well, otherwise, it's just what do you need faith for if it's right there in front of you?
Yeah.
Exactly. You need faith to believe in what isn't seen. If it's seen, you don't need any faith.
Yeah.
Totally. I love that you brought that up about everybody's having belief in themselves. That's a huge problem. Yeah. Because like my dad likes to say it this way. He says the whole human race has an identity crisis. Nobody knows who they are, what they're capable of, what they can be, all that kind of stuff. And it's so true. Because like Ellen and I are like, we have to sell because we're in business and we take on clients and all that kind of stuff, right? But like half of what we do, if not more, is just giving people hope that they can get their health back. They can beat this thing. They can do this that we're trying to help them do. And not even like sell them that we can do it, just that it's possible because they've been sick or tired or they've had this problem or that problem so long. And they've heard so many other people all say like, okay, this is never going to get fixed. Or you have to do that. Or you have to do this for the rest of your life. And then we come along as like, this can be fixed. There is hope. Like it's not done yet. You're still alive. You're still breathing. So let's not give up. Like that's most of what we do in the first few weeks of whenever we're working with anybody, is just helping them get their hope and their faith back and what they can do for themselves.
Yeah.
So it's totally true.
People's lives really kind of like stop when they stop dreaming, when they stop believing they stop having hope for a better day. And that's what we all need. We need hope for a better day. We need to keep dreaming, keep thinking big.
Huge. Totally.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Absolutely.
So do you like still dream? Do you still have like big aspirations for like your team and your business and everything like that? It's like you
look like a man on a mission.
If I'm doing something, the moment I'm on to something else, I won't be doing what I'm doing. But if I'm doing what I'm doing, it's because I know that I can make it better.
Cool.
Right.
I love that.
I know that I can grow what I'm working at, whether that's my team, whether that's my sales business, whether that's whatever I'm working on. If I'm working on it, it's because I know that if if I put the effort in every day and I take care of what I'm building, it will grow. I like the law of averages. The law of averages kind of evens the playing field for everybody. I've oftentimes said to the new guys in the office, if we had a competition, I could show the brand new guys how to beat the old experienced guys. And they're like, how could we do that? I said, well, if you talk to 10 people and get 1, and the experienced guy talks to 10 people and gets 9, that's pretty daunting, right? Except I know how you can beat him. And they're like, well, how can I beat a guy like that? It's easy. He talks to 10 and gets 9.
Yeah.
You talk to 10 and get 1. It's really easy how to beat him.
Yeah.
And the answer is?
You got to talk to
You
way more
gotta
people.
talk to more people. Yeah.
You got to talk to more people. And then here's the other thing about the law of averages. The law of averages says that you can't do something over and over and over and not get better.
Totally.
So if you talk to 10 today and get 1, and if you talk to 20 or 30 this week, next week when you talk to 10, you're probably getting 2.
True.
Totally. And because you're talking to more people, you get that compounding experience a lot faster, you develop faster, and you'll catch up to the guy.
Exactly. So the law of averages equals levels the playing fields for all participants.
Right.
The only thing the law of averages doesn't help, it doesn't help those that quit.
Totally.
So true.
So the moment you get it in your head that I cannot quit, because if I quit, I'm not quitting on the business. Nobody quits the business, whatever the business is. Nobody quits the business. They quit themselves.
Yeah.
Because the business is credible, usually. I mean, I'm not talking about a scam, but I'm talking about most business models are credible and they work. They just don't work for everybody, because the reason they don't work for everybody is not everybody wants to work.
Right. Totally.
But if everybody worked, then the model would, and if it's a sustainable model, if it's a sustainable model, there's always tests. If there's a sustainable model and it does work, if I put in the effort, and if I put in more than the effort, then it's going to work for me.
Right. Totally. All right. Right now, I want to talk to you about our new book coming out called The Living Diet. It's currently up for pre-order on our website. And if you get it before it launches, you can get it for $40 off. Okay. So why would you want to buy The Living Diet? You want to buy The Living Diet because it is going to teach you and show you everything you need to know in order to create a sustainable, nutrient-dense, and amazing tasting diet that you can stick to for the long time that will support your body and all of your nutritional needs. Okay. Inside of The Living Diet, you are going to get copious amounts of training and knowledge and teaching on your food, what's in your food, what your food is made of, what food does in the body, protein, fat, carbs, phytochemicals, minerals, vitamins, all these different things that you get from your food that your body needs to sustain health. You will learn it all, you will understand it, and you'll be able to use it practically to create a diet that works for you. You're also going to get probably over 100 recipes that are all delicious, all very easy to make, all focused on a busy schedule, so it doesn't take a whole ton of time. They're not super complicated, and they will support you nutritionally. You will feel full and satiated, and they all taste delicious, okay? So on that topic of wealth and business and all that kind of stuff, because you're a fairly qualified person to talk on this subject. I mean, you've made millions in real estate over the years. So what would you recommend to somebody, like, this is a question that Ellen and I came up with before, is just like first time home buyers or people that want to get started in real estate, they want to accumulate wealth, they want to become successful, that kind of stuff. How would you recommend somebody start? Because like they have nothing, just like you did. You didn't have any, they don't have resources, their parents can't help them, all that kind of stuff. They have $0 in the bank, but they got the drive, they got the determination. They won't quit. They just need the process, they need the framework, they need the path forward.
Especially today is quite different from the way it used to be too.
No kidding.
So step number 1 is everybody has character. So some people's character is weak and some people's character is strong. There are various degrees. So everybody has character. So your number 1 goal in life is to be all you can be. That's the number 1 goal, which means if I'm going to be everything I can be, I have to develop myself. So when I realized that's my number one goal and I start developing myself, if you start developing yourself, people around you will notice that. And so if you're going to be all you can be in life, the money part of it will come. And as far as acquiring property, I mean, the very first property I acquired, I was working on myself because I knew that I got to work on myself harder than I work on the job. So that means I got to get up early and read, and I got to listen, and I got to attend seminars, and I got to do everything that I can possibly do to get better.
Right.
And one day, I met a man who was he was a landlord. He was actually my landlord for a while, but I met him. And talking to him one day, he was doing a subdivision of a property and he was dividing off a lot, and we were talking, and he says to me, he says, "Hey Ray," he says, "do you want to buy this lot?" And I said, "Yeah, it'd be a good idea." And he said, "Well, here's the deal." He said, "I'll sell you the lot for this much money." And I said, "Okay." I said, "The problem is I'm going to need to borrow some money to build a house." And he said, "Here's the thing. Buying the lot's the smallest part of the deal. Building the house is the biggest part of the deal." So he said, if you can figure out how to buy the lot, I'll lend you the money to build a house.
Cool.
Now, the only thing he had from me at that point in time was my, he knew me. We'd been talking, having coffee.
That relationship.
I was new. I didn't know him for more. I'd known him now for probably a few years. I think I met him in the fall of 73, and I did this deal in the fall of 76. So over 3 years, we had a lot of coffee meetings and this and that. It didn't happen overnight. We'd had supper together a few times and different things like that. So he watched how I was developing myself, and he made me this incredible offer. So I just had to come up with the money to buy the lot.
Right.
So I just started asking people that I knew, and this lady I knew, she said, "I'll lend you the money."
Wow.
So I borrowed the money to buy the lot. I gave him the money for the lot. He lent me the money to build the house. I hired my buddy to help me build a house and learn how to build houses. So basically, I got the house built, moved into it, lived there for maybe a year or so, and sold the house. And then when I saw the profit I made, I thought, wait a second, I'm not working at a lumberyard anymore. I'm gonna build houses.
The commission on real estate is way better than wood.
Definitely.
So I'm gonna build houses. So that's what I started doing, building houses.
Cool.
So my point is, to answer your question, the number one job is not finding the money. The number one job is finding yourself and making sure you're if you're a first time. Number two is that the more when you realize you can do more with more people than you can all by yourself, you might partner with people. People that you can get along with, because if you can find people to partner with, it lessens the load and divides the load, and it helps you develop good relationships and this kind of thing. So over the years, I've always had partners of some sort in just about everything I've done. It's seldom I've done it all by myself. I have done things by myself, but most of the time, most of the years of my life, I've always had a partner. So you can do so much more with partners, and getting started, like, the important thing about getting started is to start, start small, start with whatever you can afford. Because here's the thing about Canada. And not every country in the world has what we have in Canada. So one of the things we have in Canada is we have mortgages.
Right.
So, years ago in the feudal system world of the old world, they didn't have mortgages.
Right.
Or, so that's why they had so many people that were called serfs or poor people. They were like almost slaves, because they couldn't leverage what a mortgage is, leverage. So in Canada, we've had incredible deals where you could buy your first home for like as little as 5% down. We've even had some periods of time where there was hardly anything down. So when you realize you can get a mortgage, then basically the people who lend you the money, the lenders, they're only looking for about four things. Number one, they're looking for the fact that you've got steady income so you can make the payments. Number two, you have good credit. So if you've got bad credit, fix it. Go, if you've got bills that you haven't paid, go fix it so that your credit score, when it's pulled, doesn't show all these problems you've had. Character problems, totally. Right? People don't have a credit problem. They have a character problem. The moment you work on your character, your credit's going to be good. And you need good credit to get a loan, and you need the ability to pay. So you got to you always be employed, always have a track record. And number three, usually lenders want some kind of a down payment. See, like the guy who lent me the money to build a house, he was basically saying to me in not so many words, you pay for the lot and I'll lend you the money, because now I've got skin in the game. So the down payment is what the lenders think is you've got skin in the game. So you got good credit, you got a job, you got the down payment somehow or other, beg, borrow, steal. Sometimes
don't do that.
I don't know if that's going to work out too well.
Not recommending that.
Not steal. What I meant, let me clarify what I meant by steal. Steal would be borrow. It's more like borrow. Like sometimes you borrow it from your parents, or parents these days help people out with the down payment, and they have to write a comfort letter saying, he's gonna repay me when he can, or whatever the comfort letter says. Mortgage brokers will help you craft that letter if you're borrowing the money from a relative or from one of your benefactors or somebody that wants to help you out, right? And then away you go. You got credit. Oh, of course, every mortgage broker that you deal with, you notice I say I've used the word mortgage broker because you never want to get your money directly from a lender.
Why is that?
You never want to go into a bank to get your money.
Why is that?
Never, never, never. They're too big and they're too powerful, and they didn't open their doors for you. You're never their customer.
Right.
So if you're a first-time buyer, you need to establish a relationship with a mortgage broker. Just like you need a realtor who's going to guide you through the process, you need a mortgage broker for the money process. And if you go straight to the lenders, they'll take advantage of you. They always do. Typically.
Interesting.
There's probably the odd exception. Like you might get treated better at a credit union. You will at one of the big five banks as an individual person. But the mortgage brokers will help you steer you through all that. And one of the questions they're going to ask you, so there's three things we talked about. The fourth one, you're not going to get a mortgage if you haven't filed your taxes. Right. Remember I told you got to fix your credit? A lot of people have tax issues.
Totally they do.
If you've got tax issues, there is where you start. Like somebody says, Ray, I want to buy my first house. I said, did you file your tax last year? No, I haven't filed taxes in 2 or 3 years. Okay, that's how we're going to help you start. That's how I'm going to help you get your first house.
Definitely.
Right.
You want me to help you get your first investment property? I can help you. Let's go file all your taxes. Get an accountant or a bookkeeper to help you get all that straightened out. You're not going to get a mortgage if you owe the tax man money.
No kidding.
It's one thing to agree or disagree with the tax man. However, in Canada, whether we agree or disagree, we have to pay.
Exactly.
Whether we agree with what they're charging us or whether philosophically we think, if you want to get a mortgage now, go fix your taxes.
Totally.
True.
Sometimes people get confused. They go, well, I don't agree with that. That's great. You don't agree. That's great. But still pay your taxes. I may not agree, but I still pay my taxes.
Definitely. So Justin told me that you are a family man. Obviously, like you said, talked about like your grandkids and everything like that. I'm sure you're super, super proud of your family, which is awesome to hear. So one thing that we've noticed, especially around people like in our generation, they kind of really want to push off having a family till like a lot later. And I was just wondering, like, what has having like a family, having kids, all that really meant like for you, like for your business, for your development?
Yeah, because you said you met your wife really young.
Yeah. So would you say it's benefited or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I look at people who have their children later in life. We had, by the time I was 26 years old, I had 3 kids.
Cool.
Wow.
I had 3 kids. First one was in 74, then 76, then 77. My daughter was born last. But here's the advantage. The advantage is the kids are growing up while I'm still fairly young and fit, and I can do all kinds of things with them.
Right.
See, and I could take them on adventures and things like that. That sometimes if you have your kids when you're in your 40s, you aren't necessarily at that fitness level, and want to
raising
do
a kid is a young man's game. That's
exactly.
No kidding.
Exactly. So you want to have those kids when you're young. Yes, you don't necessarily have everything going your way, but you got energy galore.
Yep.
You can take them fishing and hunting. And
like the law of averages. You don't got all the experience, might not have all the money in the bank.
Everything the kids want to do,
but you can make up for that with blood, sweat, and tears.
People ask me if I ski, and I said, well, yeah, I've skied only because the kids wanted to go skiing.
Right.
I've never had a love that I should come flying down the side of a mountain, that I could break things. I've never thought that, no, there's our great, I never grew up thinking that's a great idea.
Right.
I mean, I came to Canada when I was a teenager, so I never had a pair of skates on in my life, but I know how to skate now.
Right.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
True.
I know how to skate now because the kids, I still skate. I skated just up to last winter with my granddaughter. Aww. She likes to skate, so I go skating with her.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
That's so cool.
That's so cool. So how much has like becoming healthier really helped you and your business and the whole 9 yards? Like how is just getting healthier really
I was lucky. I'll give some credit to my dad. My dad actually taught me 2 things. He taught me, one, that I should be in shape and be fit, and he used to wake me up every morning at 5 o'clock. We head to the beach, swim, and every morning.
That's cool.
It seemed like every morning, but maybe when it was low tide, we didn't swim, obviously. We only swam when it was high tide, but, so maybe it wasn't every morning. But it seemed like as a kid that it was every morning. Yeah. So so I learned fitness from my dad, and I stayed. There was hardly a time in my life where I haven't been active. I've always been internally driven because I was always getting up early. I mean, when I was a kid in South America, I rode my bike to school every day and twice a day. So I'd ride to school in the morning, come home for lunch, ride back to school, ride back home. And everywhere I wanted to go, there was no chauffeur. I had to go on my bike. Yeah. So, I have calf muscles, which, some people that didn't ride bikes all their life don't have calf muscles. I have calf muscles from riding my bike. So fitness was always a part of what me growing up. And so when I was in my 20s, I played volleyball in high school. I was on my track team in school. So I've been always active. And I was all through my 20s and 30s, I played either volleyball, squash, racquetball, and ran. Mm-hmm. I used to think to myself, I don't need much to exercise because I just need a pair of running shoes, a pair of shorts, t-shirt. When I travel, I've even run in Denver, Mile High City.
Oh, cool.
It wasn't that bad. I ran in Mile High City, I ran in Montreal, Toronto, different places, always running. What messed me up, I was messed up for a few years. I was messed up from about age 40 for a few years, 3, 4 years. And what messed me up was I busted my Achilles tendon.
Ooh. Yeah.
I had to have an operation on my Achilles, and so having an injury can set you back. But I was driven internally, so once I was always working and trying to recoup that thing, recoup, and the doctor said don't ever run. So then I basically switched to walking, and until maybe 7, 8 years ago, I was in my 60s before I realized I better learn how to use weights. Because I was actually packing around more weight than I should be packing around. I had my cardio was still good, but maybe not the best, but it was good. But I should have probably got introduced to weight training and that type of fitness maybe a long time before I did get introduced to it. But the moment I got introduced to it, I realized I lacked. So I had to knuckle down.
Right.
And then along the way I met Ron.
Yeah.
And he made me knuckle down even more.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because I didn't know about drinking alkalizing water.
Right.
So I've only learned the water thing in the last year, and I'm like, after I turned 70, like, why would you want to wait that long? I did say no.
No kidding.
I wasn't looking, I guess. But now I try to help other people look and find. So to answer your question about health, I've always known, like, I mean, what's the point of being, if you're successful financially and you can't enjoy it because you're in a wheelchair, how's that any?
Yeah, true.
Totally. Yeah, one thing we say all the time. Yeah, health is wealth. Like it's so true.
Yeah,
you need it.
Health is wealth. So I've known I've had to watch what I've eaten for years and years and years after, especially after I busted my Achilles tendon. If I kept on eating, which I did, I kept on eating like I was running and playing squash for about 2 or 3 years. And all of a sudden, I went from 175 to 225.
Wow. Right.
So now I'm at 200. I'm back to 200.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I'll ever get to 175. I have more muscle today than I did it back in those days.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Well, yeah, like in when it comes to the working out, you definitely push yourself much harder than other guys I've seen your age. Like it's impressive for sure. The things like just because it's all here.
I got crazy people and I got these crazy guys on the other side of the Zoom call that are trying to, cripple me or something.
Exactly. Well, we do it because we love you, Ray.
Yeah.
We do it because we love you. Okay.
Wow.
Exactly. So what would you say?
So does that answer your fitness thing about the fitness?
Yeah.
Of course, health is wealth. So you gotta stay on top of the game, and you gotta. But basically, one of the things I like about being fit is I'm basically applying the same principles I've used in sales. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. If you could listen. The secret to success and the secret to failure is understanding that there's little things that compound. So if you have a bad habit, but you compound it daily, you're guaranteed to fail.
Yeah.
Like if you go to the bar once in a while, you're not going to become an alcoholic. But if it's your habit every day to go to the bar and have a few drinks, then pretty soon, it's a small error in judgment compounded over time produces a negative result. Mm-hmm. But the opposite is the truth. If you take small, smart moves and you compound those smart moves over time, it'll compound into success.
Totally. Yeah, like one donut doesn't really make much difference.
Good habits compounded. Yeah, good habits compounded produces a successful result.
Totally. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like that applies so much to health and just like what we do, not just the real estate and the business side of things and just overall life, but like specifically like a lot of the stuff that we teach people is it's not about just going from 0 to 100 and doing everything perfectly. It's figuring out what you can do consistently over the long term that's going to keep those results that we get for you, as opposed to just let's lose the weight as quickly as possible and then 2 years down the road it all comes back.
Yeah.
It's let's teach you how to actually live differently so the result stays that way. And it's so much more about consistency and long term doing the same good things over and over again.
That's the same in business.
Yep.
People want to know, how can I make, hundreds of thousands or millions overnight? Don't worry about that.
Totally.
Worry about, can I develop the habits that work? If you develop the habits that work to make your business grow and you keep on doing it, your business is going to compound.
Totally.
It's hard to get away from that compounding effect. And there's actually a book by a guy that I know quite well. His name's Darren Hardy. Darren's got a book called The Compound Effect. If nobody's read that book, it'll help them. And the quote I just made about slight errors in judgment compounded daily will produce failure. That is a quote from a very famous guy. His name is Jim Rohn. And I studied Jim well for 25 or plus 30 years of my life. I've studied guys like Jim Rohn who've helped me develop the kind of mindset. You want to develop a good, strong mindset. It's easy if you get around people who have a good, strong mindset. Here's another quote from Jim. Jim would say this, and Charlie Jones would say this. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Totally.
So you're the average in their thinking, you're average in their income, you're the average in their health. So if you hang around, healthy people, you're going to want to do the things they do to be healthy. I mean, my dad taught me another lesson. It was a great lesson. My dad was an alcoholic. So I grew up in an alcoholic environment, but I came to the conclusion, I must have been 8 or 9 years old. And one day I came to the conclusion that I should never be drunk.
Right.
My dad didn't know he was teaching me that, but he did. And alcoholism and drug addiction is a big deal in society these days. And a lot of times it's a generational thing.
Definitely.
Because if you know people, I'm sure anybody that listens to this podcast, not anybody, but a lot of people that listen to the podcast will probably have been affected by addictions.
Oh yeah, on some level, for sure.
On some level. And there's a great book, and there's a guy who has some great teaching to help people get off addictions. His name is Dr. John Bradshaw. So John Bradshaw has written some great books. One of his books is called Bradshaw on the Family. And he's the guy on public television that has those mobiles that hang, and he does all of his illustration. But really, he helps people to understand that if you're born in an alcoholic home or in a drug addicted home, there's actually 4 known types of behavior that can develop. And one of those types is the copycat. So, it's like my dad was an alcoholic, so therefore I'm an alcoholic. But the same testimony can come from the same family, and another person says, well, I don't touch alcohol because my dad was an alcoholic. See, so you can get the same reaction, different reaction from the same set of circumstances. And then the third reaction is, because we learn by observing, right? So maybe one of the parents is alcoholic and the other one makes excuses for them, puts up with them. It's quite common. So then one of the kids says, internally, they don't consciously say it, but they develop an internal mechanism where they end up marrying alcoholic and doing exactly what one of their parents did. Right?
Yeah.
And then the most unknown, it's really unknown, and people are very unaware of this, and they sometimes don't want to face it. But there's a fourth reaction. The fourth reaction is the child who, because the parent or parents are alcoholic or drug addicted, they don't have that love connection with one of the kids. And as a result, it's like somebody has snipped the cord that produces that life that the children need.
Yeah.
And then what happens to that person is that they're like a lost soul because they've never had this connection. And a lot of times what they do is they just disappear. Like literally just disappear. And they fall off the face of the family, or it seems like they've fallen off, and when they surface, they're in some kind of deviant lifestyle and they're gone crazy, seems like.
Right.
Like we see people that are involved in all kinds of lifestyles, like, they're hookers or they're drug addicts or living on the street, and you think, well, what did something happen? Yeah, likely something happened. Likely there was no love, there was no family bonding because of the addiction in the family, but at some point somebody can rise up and say, you know what, I'm gonna snip that off and start a different heritage.
Absolutely.
Totally.
There's no place in life you can fall that is so low you can't reach out for help. We were talking about faith. Again, faith is the ability to believe in something that doesn't yet exist for you.
Right.
It may exist for other people. It may not exist for you. And if you cry out and look for help, there is no place that is so low that the Lord couldn't reach down and grab you and help you and raise you up.
Absolutely.
So,
Totally. Yeah. And that's so true too. Cause like my dad was that guy, cause he grew up, his dad, his grandfather, all the men in that side of the family, they had huge history with abuse and physical abuse and all that kind of stuff. And when him and my mom got pregnant with me, he just kind of like set the line in the sand. He's like, there's no way I'm ever going to do to my son what my dad did to me. And then it ended. And, you know, I'm not going to do the same thing that my dad's dad did to him, to my kids and all that kind of stuff, you know? So that's just a perfect example of just, you know, it's all about choices. And you draw that line in the sand, you make that decision, and you never go back.
Yeah.
Totally.
Be the change in your family and the cycle, and then it's a cycle of trauma.
Absolutely.
Honestly.
What would you say? Because I really, really love what you said about you need to work on yourself first. Like if you like, how do you get into a real estate deal? Well, you need to be the guy that can get into a real estate deal. So become that. So what would you say to somebody who wants to become that person? They're not that person now, but they want to get there. What are things they can do? What are some steps they can take, actions they can do, some habits they can build that can help them become that person they want to be?
For starters, to be the person you want to be, let's just back up and say this. We all have programs that have been put into us by other people. So
Absolutely.
A lot of times we think, this is how I think, or this is what I think. It's not what you think, or it's not how I think. It's what you've been programmed to think.
Nothing's original.
So there's no original thought. You've been programmed the way you are, but when you don't recognize it, so that the level of awareness has to rise in a person for them to grow.
Right.
And the first level of awareness is I don't even have my own thoughts. So now I need to write some programs in me that aren't there. Well, the easiest way for you to be influenced, when you come to that conclusion, the quickest and easiest way to be influenced is through there's already proven success mentors available in books, in tapes, and CDs, and seminars, and those kinds of things. So in all those areas of learning to communicate, learning to grow, you should read the Dale Carnegie books, like How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Right.
And then if you want a book that's going to challenge your ability to believe and to have faith in what doesn't yet exist, you'd want to read the great Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Right. I think every single entrepreneur ever has talked about that book.
So matter of fact, I have a little short.
You need to have that in your manual.
Yeah, like you got to have, when you pick up Think and Grow Rich for the first time, don't even bother starting in the beginning. That's one of those books you flip ahead to chapter 9, the chapter on persistence, and give yourself a little test. The test is, can I read chapter 9 every day, which is about a 15-minute read? Can I read chapter 9 every day for 30 days? And if I miss a day, I start over until I get 30 days straight. And I do what it says to do in chapter 9. So you read chapter 9 every day for 30 days straight. It might take you 40, 50, 60, 100. I don't know how long it's going to take you, because I was doing this one time not too long ago. I got to day 28 and I forgot.
Shoot.
Wow.
No, you say shoot, but it's actually you're never too old to keep learning, right?
That's true.
Totally.
That's true.
So I do the 30 days again until I get it, and I get something else out of it. And anyway, that Think and Grow Rich is, but for real estate investors, people that want to get going, you should read it. It's a basic book today for most investors, but for some people who haven't read it, it's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Poor Dad. Rich Dad.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Right.
By Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah, that's another one. Like if you're an entrepreneur, that's just one of those books everyone has heard about or talked about or read 1,000 times.
And the fact that somebody's even thinking that they want to be an investor. See, the thing about real estate is that over any 10-year period in Canada, real estate goes up in value. So the sooner you get in, the better off you're going to be.
Right. That's cool. I didn't know that about real estate with the 10-year thing.
Yeah, every 10 years, within a 10-year cycle, every marketplace is slightly different. So I don't know off the top of my head what the Ottawa marketplace is, but I can tell you, houses 10 years ago in Ottawa are cheaper than they are today.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
If in doubt, you just phone my friend Steve Hammery or my other friend Jeff McGowan. You phone them up and say, Ray told me to contact you guys about helping me get my first house, and they'll help you.
Yeah, totally. Cool. So for anyone that wants, that they're listening to this podcast, they hear all the things you're talking about, they get inspired, they want to take action, and they're starting to do all these things. They get their taxes done, they fix their credit score, they find a mortgage broker, all that kind of stuff. what are some things that people should look out for when they're looking to get their first home or to get their first investment property? Like, what are some good things that I look for and identify in a good deal versus a bad deal? What's going to be a good return? What's going to be a bad return? What are some things they should do?
So step number one is if you have a good agent. See, when you go into this process, I mean, I've been in the agency business for 37 years, so obviously I believe in it. And I'm not saying you couldn't get a good deal on your own, but why do you want to walk this route all on your own when you could have a good agent who is experienced? And what the agent will do for you, if he's a good agent, and 20-30% of them are good agents. I can't say about the other 70%. You know, half of them sometimes don't do anything. But the top, 20-30% of them, you find a good agent, and if you're in doubt about finding an agent, I'll find one for you. But the good agent that you have will get you one of the best deals the day you buy the property, and that is getting it bought at the right price. Mm-hmm. And the terms and conditions. The terms and conditions and the right price, which a good agent will negotiate on your behalf, is invaluable because, I mean, let's just say, I'm just making this up, but let's just say the agent got you a price that was, below the seller's asking price. Well, how long would it take that property to be in the marketplace and you making payments on it to gain that? So one of the biggest gains is what you gain when you buy it, if it's done right. The second part of what is done right is if somebody guides you with the mortgage process and you end up with a mortgage that allows you to pay back or pay down the principal sooner than later and pay the least amount of interest. So the question is not the interest rate, but the question is, what's the mortgage cost me? See, most people assume the cost of the mortgage is the interest. It's not necessarily true. Not necessarily true. How is the interest calculated? And am I getting a mortgage that allows me to get out of debt sooner than later, as opposed to one that keeps me in debt for longer? Because the lenders want you to be in debt forever.
Yeah.
Right. Totally.
So that's why the lender is not your friend. He's your friend in as much as we live in a country that allows us to borrow part of he's your friend in that regard. But that's where the friendship ends, and that's why you don't want to and keep in mind, they've been doing this for hundreds of years, and you're new.
Yeah.
Do never never walk into the door of a bank.
Right.
To get help with money.
Gotcha.
They're not going to help you.
Good advice.
You don't want to go to a bank, and you don't want to buy insurance from a bank, and they're going to try to do all kinds of things that are crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If you need an insurance broker, I'll refer you to one, because never buy insurance from a bank.
Right. Okay, so just long story short, if you want to get into real estate, just talk to Ray Yenkana.
Yeah, definitely.
You're the guy, and if you're not the guy, you know the guy.
Yeah.
Well, I'll try.
You'll do great.
It's what I do.
When you're doing it for
people.
almost 40 years, you have to. You're that guy.
Yeah, he's just that guy. He doesn't miss.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I left you all my contact information in the form, so if people want to. Texting is actually, text me on WhatsApp or something. Okay. And we can set up a time to have a meeting, and
cool.
Away we go.
Awesome. Great. Well, you know what, guys? If you've listened to this and you've got some value from it, you think that you want to make some positive changes in your life and you learn something cool, like we say this every time, don't just end it when you hit the pause button and go do your regular stuff. Take action on all these things. Because like Ray, you drop bombs the whole time.
So much. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh.
So
that was really helpful.
If someone can't get something from this, then they just don't want it,
Yeah.
So if you learn something, you got inspired to do something, you want to make a change, actually go do something with all this. Take action. Because if you're just knowing things for the sake of knowing things and you never do anything with it, it's useless. So if you guys want to take some action, you guys want to do something, go get a book, go change your diet, go buy some real estate. If you want to help with the real estate, talk to Ray, tell him that we send you over here at the Mighty Cast. I'm sure he'd love to give you some time.
Absolutely.
And we'll have all of his information down in the description below. Mm-hmm. And Ray, dude, thank you.
Thank you so much.
This was awesome.
It was
thank you
helpful.
so much. Mm-hmm. This was cool.
Great to meet you, Elle.
Great to meet you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we learned.
I've only heard about you, but now I get a chance to meet you.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Did she live up to all the hype?
Oh, way better.
Nice. Cool. Cool.
Way better than what you talked about.
Right? I know. I gotta get better at sales. I do. Awesome.
Way better. Okay.
I agree. Awesome. Thank you so much, Ray. Thank you for your time. We'll talk to you soon.
We'll talk to you soon.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Take care.
Bye.
See ya.